Hey everyone, it's Tanner here, and welcome back to a new Ninjago video here on the channel. In today's video, we are going to be talking about Mcguffins. Now, what exactly are Mcguffins, and how do they relate to Ninjago? Well, a Mcguffin is a term used in either literature or film mostly, and most of the time it is an object or a person or something that kind of drives the main plot of the characters. In the case of Ninjago, it would be the many collectibles that we get throughout the several releases of Ninjago sets that have come out since Ninjago has begun. Mcguffins have been around in Ninjago since the beginning, the earliest of which could easily be the golden weapons. They were kind of used to draw the plot forward for the ninja in the pilot episodes and the first couple of seasons of Ninjago, and they were also the main collectible in the Ninjago sets as well for that wave. So in this video, we're going to be going through each one of the Ninjago Mcguffins, or collectibles if you will, and I will be ranking them in terms of which ones are my least favorite and which ones are my favorite. Now again, since it is just a ranking video, naturally it's just my own opinions, so try not to get too bent out of shape after the video is done. Feel free to go ahead and list off your favorite collectible in the comments section, and we will go from there. For the time being, this is just my own thoughts and my own videos, so without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into it and rank all of the Ninjago collectible items from worst to best. Starting off at the bottom of the list, we have these Scrolls of Forbidden Spin Jitsu. Now these things are from Season 11, they've also appeared in the Season 11 sets, and they really don't have that much collectible value, at least to me. In the show, they played a very important part for the most part, but in the actual sets themselves, they were kind of limited. They weren't really featured on anything. The box art showed them, but they weren't highlighted like past collectibles were, and in my opinion, it kind of gave me less of an incentive to collect the different scrolls. There are only a few that you can get in different, I guess, fashions. They're printed on like a vinyl thing, but they're really not the best ones in my own opinion, so that's why they're at the bottom of the list. Next up, we have the Kitanas from Prime Empire. Now, the Kitanas were used to basically act as a gateway of sorts to the final battle of Prime Empire, which was, of course, against Unagami, and for the most part, they were okay. I mean, the actual designs of the Kitanas were pretty cool, all things considered. There were only 3 of them, so that number might be a little small for most people. I think that's a pretty good amount, but in terms of their actual usage, it just felt way too familiar to something such as, Ready Player One, and it just wasn't anything super original for Ninjago, so that's why they're kind of near the bottom. They're okay in their own way, but they're not my favorite thing out there. Next up on the list, we have the second entry of the Golden Weapons. Now, the Golden Weapons made a return in Legacy. As I mentioned earlier, they were pretty much the main collectibles of the first release wave for Ninjago, but they made a return in Ninjago Legacy's first wave, but they were all new, all different. They were kind of designed a little bit differently from the original, at least in terms of Jay's nunchucks and Cole's scythe. Obviously, Kai's and Zane's remain the same, but the new designs that they came up with for Jay's nunchucks and Cole's scythe, especially in the case of the Scythe of Quakes, I really don't think that they were even close to matching the greatness of the original Golden Weapons, so that's why they're kind of down here towards the bottom of the list. Not the best redesigns out there, and in my opinion, the originals are far superior. Next up, we have the Fang Blades, which were introduced in Season 1 of Ninjago as the collectibles that would help awaken the Great Devourer. That's right, not every single collectible was a ninja weapon. The Fang Blades pretty much made their set debut in the second half of the 2012 wave. They were primarily featured among sets like the Ultra Dragon Battle, and even a few smaller sets as well, like the Samurai X Mech. But overall, these Fang Blades, while they are super cool in their own way, there is one for each individual snake tribe, with a few exceptions. Overall, they're a pretty interesting item, but again, they're not weapons, which in my opinion makes them a little boring. Other collectibles that aren't weapons do a better job at, I guess, stressing how important they are, but the Fang Blades really didn't do that for me, so that's why they're near the bottom. Next up, we have the Dragon Armor. Now, the Dragon Armor pretty much debuted in the Season 9 sets, and this thing is kind of ridiculous. The Dragon Armor itself only came in a few pieces, so it's kind of hard to make that a collectible. Technically, this does count among the Mcguffin/collectible category, and while I do think that the Dragon Armor assembled looks pretty good, in the sets, all it came down to was, oh, you get the Dragon Bone Blade in this set, rest of the armor in this set, and there you go. Only 2 sets in, and you're basically complete. In my opinion, they really didn't divide the collectibles out amongst the waves in Season 9 as much as they did in other seasons, so that kind of makes the Dragon Armor, at least to me, feel a little strange and kind of, I guess, too easy to acquire. But it's still a really cool suit of armor, and I love the significance to the actual story that it plays. Next up, we have the Departed Blades, which are a pretty cool select group of items. These were primarily used by the bad guys during the Day of the Departed saga, and they were simply reused weapons from previous series, except redesigned a little differently to fit the villainous aesthetic. I really like these things, and it's one of my favorite things about Day of the Departed. The actual Departed Blades are really, really cool. I love how each main villain has their own unique Departed Blade, and just overall as a group, they're super fun. This is kind of in the middle of the list for me, and just overall the Departed Blades Blades are pretty cool, but they're not super great. I like other things more, so these guys are kind of on an average level in my opinion, and that's why they're kind of near the middle of the list. Next up, we have the Snake Staffs, which made their debut in the first half of the 2012 wave of Ninjago, otherwise known as Season 1. Now, the actual Serpentine Staffs, there were only 4 of them. In the show, there were 5, but in the sets, we only got, one for the Hypnobrai, the Constricti, the Fangpire, and the Venomari. The Anacondrai Staff is nowhere to be found within the sets. But the actual staffs themselves were key components to the ninja winning in the first season of the show, and in my opinion, that made them super collectible. I really liked these things back in the day. I had my own little collection of Serpentine Staffs just because I feel like they're a really nice collectible among the overall group of collectibles that we're covering in this list. So overall, the Serpentine Staffs are pretty cool, but of course, there are others that I like more. Next up on the list, we have the Oni Masks from Sons of Garmadon. This is kind of a small number. Again, there were only 3 Oni Masks that we actually saw in the show. There is a little bit more debate as to whether or not there are more than 3, but in the show, we only saw 3. And the Sons of Garmadon used them very effectively throughout Season 8, kind of making them a collectible that I really wanted. I do have all 3 Oni Masks, and I proudly display them in my Temple of Resurrection. I feel like they're a very awesome group of collectibles that I'm proud to have. And overall in the show, they were really important, so that's pretty much why they're here on the list. I really enjoy the Oni Masks. I wish we could see more collectibles like these ones in the future. Next up on the list, we have the Time Blades, primarily wielded by Acronix and Crux during the Season 7 saga of Ninjago. These things are super cool. In the actual show, they are made out of chronosteel, which is a material that can absorb elemental energy. Naturally, that would mean that Acronix and Crux's powers of time lie pretty much within the actual Time Blades themselves, and that's really cool. In my opinion, the Time Blades, while their designs are kind of strange and not so sure how you could use them for fighting, we did see them in the show being used effectively in both hand-to-hand combat and, in actual elemental combat, so I feel like they could be used effectively, but I feel like there are better designs for blades out there than these ones. That's pretty much my only thing putting them pretty much at this position in the list. There are other blades that kind of fit that definition a little better than the Time Blades. Either way, these things really don't give me much room to complain. These things are very, very cool, and I'm really happy to have the full set of them in my Ninjago collection. Next up, we have the Jin Blades. Now, these are a little bit of a special case. In the show, there's only one Jin Blade wielded by Nauticon that absorbs the power of whoever he chooses to lock into the sword. In the sets, there are several Jin Blades, each one pretty much representing a different ninja being captured. I feel like the actual placement of these things in the sets are really cool because you can kind of customize the Jin Blade to basically trap whoever you want in there. You just need to give it a specific color and you're pretty much good to go. The Jin Blade in the show can hold many people at once, while in the sets, you could actually make that happen and show that happening a little bit more effectively than what Nauticon did in the show. So the Jin Blades are a special case, but I definitely prefer the Jin Blades that it came in the actual sets for Skybound as opposed to the Jin Blade that we saw Nauticon wield in the series. Next up on the list, we have the Techno Blades from Season 3 of Ninjago, otherwise known as Rebooted. Now these things hold a very unique design. Each one is kind of different. Each one for the ninja holds a different type of hilt. One of them's on a chain, one of them's on a chainsaw. You pretty much get the gist of that. But overall, the Techno Blades were very cool in the show. The ninja could use them to hack into things and actually make vehicles their own, and that was really cool in my opinion. I remember really being into the Techno Blades back in the day. Of course, with my love of, robotics and technology and stuff like that, it definitely made for a super fun weapon for the ninja that pretty much no other weapon in the series so far has kind of, countered. I guess the Kitanas maybe hold a few similarities to the Techno Blades, but overall the Techno Blades are the original and they are the superior blade in the digital stories that Ninjago has offered over the years. Next up, now we are entering the top 5. We have the Aeroblades of Possession. Now the Aeroblades belonged to Ronin originally. There are a couple of them and they kind of correspond with no element. It kind of depends on whose elemental power kind of latches onto it. In the sets, the Aeroblades are kind of ridiculously huge and they're kind of obnoxious to pose with the ninja in my opinion, but in the show the Aeroblades are amazing. The Aeroblades, again, were given to the ninja by Ronin and they were basically the ninja's best defense against the Ghost Army until Nia became the Water Ninja, but still, these things are cool. I thought it was really cool to see each ninja kind of master a shuriken-style weapon, especially in the case of the other ninja that aren't Zane, because Zane was always known for shurikens, but now it's time for the other ninja to use this type of weapon. And I thought it was really cool. Again, the Aeroblades have the ability to destroy ghosts, and overall I really like their designs, even in the sets, even though I do think they are a little bit big compared to the overall ninja. I'm not sure what they would have done that would have made that different, but in the show they're a pretty good scale at least, so that's why they're in the number 5 spot. Next up, in the number 4 spot, we have the Blades of Deliverance. Now, like I said earlier with the Kitanas and the Scrolls of Forbidden Spinjitzu, Jitsu, these numbers get super small in the newer seasons of Ninjago. The most recent season, as of the time of recording, Season 13, Master of the Mountain, only had 2 collectibles throughout the entirety of its set wave, and those are the 2 Blades of Deliverance, one black one, one white one. And of course, these are basically the weapons used by Lily, Cole's mother, in order to defeat Griefbringer and save the Geckos and the Munts. I really enjoyed the Blades of Deliverance, both in terms of their design and their story, because the design is super cool. I love the way that the blades look, and the actual storyline that affects it is also really important to the story, and especially for Cole. So I really enjoyed that aspect of the blades as well, and just overall seeing Cole wield them in the show, I knew that they were going to take a pretty high spot on this list, and that's why they're in the number 4 spot on this list. Next up in the number 3 spot, we have the original golden weapons from the original 2011 wave of Ninjago, and these things are classics. You really can't say much more about them than that. In the show, they were used long ago by the first Spinjitzu master, but they were sealed away by Master Wu when Garmadon's evil tried to rise up and take them away, and overall the ninja and the pilot seasons at least were pretty much going on a quest to find these golden weapons. These are the original Mcguffins, if you will. You have the classic Sword of Fire, Scythe of Quakes, Nunchucks of Lightning, and the Shurikens of Ice. They are all really cool weapons, and I felt like each weapon corresponded to their respective elements and their respective ninja super well, and I really love the original designs for the Scythe of Quakes and the Nunchucks of Lightning. I know Legacy tried to remake them, but in my opinion, the Legacy remakes just don't hold the same amount of impact as these original golden weapons do. Of course, these golden weapons were eventually fused into Garmadon's mega weapon, but only the golden weapons actually held that collectible value in the sets, so that's why I'm including them on this list, and they're really classic and they're really nostalgic for me, so naturally they would take a higher spot on this list. Next up in the number 2 spot, we have a collectible that a few people might be surprised made it up this high on the list, and those are the Jade Blades. In the show, the Jade Blades really weren't used for all that much. They were kind of used as, I guess, key items in the Tournament of Elements. Mainly, each ninja pretty much had to collect them or hold on to it for a certain amount of time, and that's basically all there is there. Now, in terms of the actual show, I do admit that's kind of boring, but the actual sets made them a lot cooler, and that's kind of where my affection for the Jade Blades kind of rises here. The sets actually incorporated them into legitimate weapons. We had Cole using his as a scythe, we had Lloyd using his on a chain like a flail. Overall, the Jade Blades in the actual sets looked really cool. I loved the idea of them being used as weapons, and I kind of always wished that in the show, the ninja would have used the Jade Blades as weapons after the tournament was over. Maybe they could have made similar weapons to what appeared in the sets, but the truth is, I really enjoyed the Jade Blades. As much as they are kind of a disappointment in the show, I'd say, in the sets, they are really cool, and I love those concept weapons so much. I love the way that they look. Even though there are only 4 of them for each of the 4 ninja at the time, I feel like overall, it was a very successful weapon to actually put with the ninjas in the sets, and I love them so much, and that's why they're in the number 2 spot. Some people might disagree with that, but I really enjoyed the Jade Blades, so that's why they're pretty much up this high on the list. And finally, my favorite collectible of all time, my favorite MacGuffin, if you will, we have the Elemental Blades from Season 2. Now, it's no secret that I really enjoy Season 2, like, as a thing, specifically the second half. The final battle is one of my favorite things about Ninjago, and part of that is because of the weapons that the ninja use. The Elemental Blades were given to the ninja in the Temple of Light in order to protect Lloyd, and these things are incredible. The actual Elemental Blade designs look amazing. Each one is pretty much the same. They're just kind of color swapped to correspond to a specific element belonging to a specific ninja. But still, I really enjoyed the Elemental Blades. I thought they were a really cool design, and I thought they played a very important part in the show. The only disappointing thing about them is that we never really found out what happened to them after the final battle, but still, with their time in the show, the Elemental Blades were really cool and really fun. They were definitely a really cool weapon to see the ninja wield, and again, just like the Aeroblades, it was really interesting to see each ninja kind of wield a particular weapon. Before this, each ninja kind of had a specific weapon dedicated to them. This is pretty much the first time that they all use a unified weapon, that of course being a sword. And overall, the Elemental Blades were really cool to me, and that's why they're in the number 1 spot. Really good weapon, really nostalgic with a really great design. So there you guys have it. I have now ranked every single Ninjago collectible that has appeared in these sets. Now, of course, there are a few that you could argue are collectibles, but these are kind of just the main priority ones that came in the sets and were focused on in the show, so these are the ones that we're picking. In case you guys had any type of question or comment down below, feel free to leave it in the comments section, and while you're down there, feel free to list off your own favorite collectibles from Ninjago. I look forward to reading what you guys come up with in terms of that, so please leave your rankings down below. I really want to see what you guys come up with. With all that being said, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, do all that fun stuff, and check out the links down below in the description from our other forms of social media. Thanks a lot for watching this video once again, guys. It was really fun to make, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Thanks a lot for watching. My name is TannerFishies, and with that, I bid you farewell.